Hello, young scholars. This is Mr. Martyron with your Flip Classroom to the Introduction to the Renaissance. So in your notes on this first page, we're going to discuss the geography, we're going to discuss humanism, and we're going to dabble into a little bit of the characteristics of the different art forms. All right, so before we even begin, we have to recognize a little bit of the geography. So you guys should remember this slide from when we did ancient Greece and Rome. The Renaissance begins in Italy, and it begins in Italy because Italy has great climate, great soil. It's located just north of the Mediterranean Sea, and because they have a lot of materials and crops and goods that people in the Middle East want, we're going to see an increase in trade from Italy to the Middle East after the Crusades. And that trade is going to lead to an increase in the economy and the gross domestic product of the Italian city-states. But for right now, you guys should remember Italy's that Italian boot-shaped peninsula. It's surrounded by water on three sides. And because of its geographic proximity to the Mediterranean Sea, it opens up all sorts of trade. And in particular, three Italian city-states are going to take the lead. So before we go any further, I want you guys to remember and I want you guys to recognize that Italy that you and I know today, that's united by the green, white, and red flag, is not the Italy of the 1300s. Italy at the time was divided into several what were known as city-states. And the city-states that you should concern yourself with are Rome, Venice, and the most important city-state of them all, Florence. That's where the Renaissance begins. So again, in your notes in geography, you definitely want to have down the idea of these three important city-states, but also Florence as the important city-state of them all. And the Renaissance can't begin in Florence without a wealthy backer, without someone who's got some excess money. And who has that money? None other than the Medici family. And we're going to talk a little bit about them in just a second. But why Italy? Why Florence? So trade from the Crusades brings back new wealth. And we know, as I just showed you from that map, because of Italy's proximity to the Mediterranean, Italy is the center of trade throughout the 1300s and 1400s. Wealthy families, like merchants, like the Medicis, are now going to have extra money to invest. So as these families get wealthier, they're going to have extra money to invest in luxury items. And for the Medicis, they were interested in the arts, sciences, and literature. So extra money will be given to aspiring artists, interested scientists, and curious writers. And because they have this money, the middle class is able to grow. And when the middle class expands, that's going to be good for everyone. So think back to the age of feudalism, when those peasants really didn't have a whole lot of social mobility. Now they have social and economic mobility. Okay? The term that you need to associate yourself with the Medicis, they're called patrons. And a patron is nothing more than a financial supporter of the arts. So I think we talked about this in class. You know, sometimes when you leave a restaurant, you may see a sign that says, "Thank you for your patronage." Well, that simply means thank you for coming in and buying goods or shopping with us or supporting us financially. And the Medicis were incredible patrons. Again, the Renaissance can't happen without the Medicis. And how the Medicis get their money? Through trade and commerce. So everything is caused by the event before it during the Renaissance. So let's talk about this idea of humanism. And humanism, the definition of humanism is it's the shift in focus on worldly themes rather than religious ideas. All right, we spent a little bit of time in class discussing this. This is a huge shift. We remember during the Middle Ages, the thinking was all about religion and the afterlife and how to serve God. Humanism is going to focus on the human being and the human spirit as opposed to religious ideas. Okay, so we already see a renewed interest in classical learning. And I have italicized that word classical because it's important. What is classical learning? Well, classical learning is a throwback to the ancient Greeks and the Romans. People are going to be really interested in this. Oh, man, what did Pythagoras think about this? What did Aristotle think about this? What did Socrates say? People are going to, it's the ultimate throwback. Okay, during this time, people study the humanities, which includes Greek, Latin, and philosophy. We're now breaking away from the traditional religious teachings. And ultimately, the big thing that you guys need to understand is that humanists will challenge, humanists will challenge everything that the church did. And I'll just move this out of the way. Humanists challenge almost everything the church did, including long-standing traditions. So one of the things that I want you guys to understand is that because of this doctrine of humanism, um, we have this long embedded belief within the human spirit that man is the measure of all things, that man is the ultimate machine, that man can solve any problems. And because of this renewed interest in focusing on mankind, we're now focusing less on religion. And that's going to be seen in everything that we discuss with the Renaissance, including literature, politics, we're going to when we discuss the Protestant Reformation, but most importantly in the next video when we take a look at art. And nowhere is the humanist spirit more present than looking at the transformation in art from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. All right. So that just covers geography and humanism. And in the next video, we're going to go over characteristics of Renaissance art and comparing the art forms. So if you need to watch this question again, or this video again, please feel free to do so. And if you have any questions, you can always post in our classroom thread.